Hi, everyone. This is Thursday, January 22nd, God Talk, and we're ready to get started. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Okay. Let's just invite Spirit in and just God be with us in this talk and just flow through us. All right. We're going to start with our introductions and icebreaker as usual. So name the pronouns you use and the answer to the icebreaker question, which Leo has or you have ready for us. Jared has ready for us. Sorry.
Okay, everybody. My name is Jared. My pronouns are any and all of them. And the icebreaker question today is easy peasy. Who's one speaker, author, or thinker who's made a big impact on you? For me, a big speaker, thinker, or author that has actually made a big impact was actually a person who was referenced here on God Talk before. It is specifically their name is like Alak. Yes. So yes, Miss Alak Minos. They're like for me, like their fashion, right, and their non-binary. They're just the way they absolutely step on all gender norms, right? Was very because I mean, like the ability to express myself really wasn't a privilege that I had growing up in the Bible Belt. So it was like my first bout, like puff of color.
I love it.
Carol.
Okay, I am Carol, she, her. And gosh, there's been so many, but I'm going to go with the one I'm currently reading, and that is Starhawk. Starhawk wrote a couple of pretty important books, I think important, but fiction and fun and books well before the turn of the century, and then wrote another one about 2015. So that's the one I'm on now. And it just talks a lot about dealing with it kind of gives an ideal of how to deal with empire and just creating a very equitable, sustainable, beautiful, harmonious, socialist type haven, and the basic approach to the enemy, the people who want to stop that, is is um, is to win them over to your side, to show them that there's a better way, as opposed to just changing hierarchy. So that's who I love. All right. You're welcome. Go.
Hey, go. I am buying a but I'm going to get out by go to you.
This is it's an author or influencer or
Oh,
that's been important to you.
oh, could be okay. I go to you about but maybe got book, maybe got a book.
I remember lots of books. Which one are you referring to?
Hey, about my baby got a book.
What, the Narnia books?
Yeah.
Oh, C.S. Lewis. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't expect such an intellectual. What a beautiful example. C.S. Lewis. Nice. Okay, I see Leo has joined us. Are you ready to Do,
Hi everyone, my name is Leo. Pronouns he, him. My favorite author
writer,
slash
speaker.
okay, author slash poet would have to be my first African American poet that I discovered in high school. It is Langston Hughes because a lot of his writings still highlight what's going on today, even though he wrote those poems, years ago. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cracker? Or yeah.
He, they. I agree with Jared that Alok Vaid Menon is just I mean, seeing him in person, and Paul and I were in the front row. We were in the front row at the theater here in Austin, and it was just incredible to feel that energy. But also, I have another person as well. A person that's made a tremendous difference on my life would be Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now and who wrote A New Earth. Those books literally changed my life and got me ready for a spiritual journey and a spiritual path.
Wow. We should put the names of these books in the chat. So we can...
I'm not sure if Alok has a book, but I follow him. He's on my feed like every day. He invites me to all his shows and
yeah, I think what Jared said about the gender bending is the thing that it brings you. And then he goes so deep in discussions about death and love and just everything under the sun. And yeah, Alok is beautiful.
Right. One day we want to create a space where they can speak.
Yes, right. They.
And I shouldn't have said that I was surprised that Marco had that was not nice of me to say that I was surprised, but hey, that was a great answer, Marco. Suzette?
Okay. I'm Suzette, she, her, and my absolute favorite author, artist, person is Andrea Gibson. Her first book was Pole Dancing to Gospel Hymns. And just a very raw, like her poetry evokes so much thought about humanity and where we are as people and what love is. And she passed away from cancer, and the whole time she was dying was just a whole journey through her eyes. And it is absolutely stunning. There's another book called We Will Be Shelter, Poems for Survival. And that's a book, it's a collective of different poems by different artists, but she curated them. But the opening to this pole dancing to gospel hymn says, I wish I'd knowed more people. I would have loved them all. If I'd knowed more, I'd love more. From Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon. So it's all about people, relationships.
Okay.
She was a gay woman, just a stark life that went away too soon. Her light went out way too fast, way too soon. But anyway, I adore her.
Nice. Yes, I'd like to check some of these out. So we're only 2 days away from our collective liberation retreat. And I think there's been a lot of excitement, but lately the conversation has focused only on the weather and are we going to get to have it? But hopefully, since it is a hybrid situation, people that can't make it in will be able to attend online. So I would invite us tonight to focus on just kind of
Preparation.
what our hopes are, what we want to, and what we as individuals, or maybe even as our little group right here tonight, want to bring to the retreat.
Yeah, we're gonna go wake up the tree up.
Suzette?
I just, my hope is that the conversation is a conversation, that it's not a lecture, and that we get to participate, because we didn't get a whole lot of upfront stuff from the moderators, and have no idea what this is going to be about, other than anti-racism. Um, Their goal is to deepen relationships, strengthen skills, and offer tools for building an anti-racist congregation. And I don't know that that wasn't really explained well. Like, what is anti-racism and why are we thinking we are racist? And what happened to bring us here? And why are we examining this now? And isn't it relevant that the whole country, the whole world is focused on this one thing that is the pinnacle of humanity, and how important this conversation really is? And I mean, it feels like, wow, this is a really relevant thing that Resurrection's doing, and how timely. Oh my gosh, but I don't think anyone knows behind the scenes what really made this come to be. So I think a few people do, but I'm glad to see the number of people registered. It's over 50, which I think is pretty encouraging. And even my partner Christy is going to be joining online. So I'm very encouraged by that. And I think we have the attention of the people. Let's do the work in the right ways. Let's shine a light on what we really need to be doing. And that's just, be freaking kind and loving to each other, every one of us. And I'm just looking forward to what they have to say. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and to address the first thing that you said, I don't think it's going to be all about what they have to say. I think they're going to bring us into conversation with each other. I don't think there's any doubt about that, or none in my mind anyway.
Well, I will be your online moderator, so I will at least be there to help you hear and facilitate questions and make sure that your voices are heard.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Jared, were you about to say something a minute ago?
Well, other than thank you, Suzette, which is my husband said for I also thank you. Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you, Suzette. Yeah, because for doing that, that hard work, right? Because that's gonna be a labor, and it's gonna be wow. Because that's one thing that I was thinking. I was like, wow, you're gonna have to be deconstructing our own isms and stuff while we are facilitating. An entire Zoom room full of people is gonna be, whoa, that's an investment. Woo. And so the labor that you are performing is absolutely necessary and so powerful. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping for this. I don't know what happened when Reverend Vicky Gibbs died. But it seems weird because Donald Trump ran on all of the discriminations, right? Literally made fun of people with disabilities, literally made fun of women for being women, right? Literally made fun of races, right? For, with racism, right? And got elected, right? On it. And then in his administration, he personally let in COVID, right? Which killed Reverend Vicky Gibbs. So discrimination killed our pastor. And so I don't know why we're not with this. We've gotten so far away from addressing the thing that killed her. And so what I would like is for the change to happen quickly, so that we can all latch on to honoring those who came before us. because I can only imagine, the spirit of Vicky. In
Taylor and I were talking about her tonight.
Yeah.
They're like, there's one question, and I guess it's in the next thing survey, and they're like, what one person in this church made a difference? And I was like, well, she's not here with us anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just makes me cry every time I talk about it.
Yes. And we have to hear that with our actors.
Yes.
I want to see that. That's really, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
her is
The voice of reason.
Hi,
The
Lynn.
voice of reason.
Ellen,
Lynn, we were
just
just
like
talking
the
about you before we started the recording. We were just wondering, and we're so happy to see you here. So thank you.
just like you all still go to class on Wednesday nights on Zoom, Paul and I were in person on Wednesday nights with Reverend Vicky from like 2013 to 2020. And then we went on Zoom. And I remember talking to her on the Tuesday night before she passed, and she said, I'm feeling kind of puny and gonna have to cancel the Zoom room for Wednesday. And then when George called on Friday and said, I need to talk to you about Vicky, I thought she was just going to tell me that she had been admitted to the hospital. And she told me that Vicky died. And I was uh, just, I just can't even say. I think I shared you all the letter that, that she wrote to Paul and I when we helped go clean out her mama's house in Beaumont after Hurricane Harvey. And it was just a really, I mean, this is with the Wednesday nights and these groups, this is where the intimacy happens. It doesn't happen in the 2 minutes when you're walking through the door. Good morning, at church, how are you? And you get, and so you really get to know somebody. And it was just, and still is devastating, July 10th, 2020. But it was, I don't know how long it was after that. I was in a dream, and it was like I was in bed. It's like she was laying behind me in bed, and she had her arms around me, and she said, everything's going to be okay. And I woke up and I was like, wow, she was here. She passed through me. So,
Yes,
um,
presence will definitely be there on Saturday, and I thought it was beautiful that that her last sermon was part of what was emailed to us as prep work for Saturday. So that yeah, that
The entire world saw her for who she was. I mean, CNN was here, every news crew that you could think of was here interviewing people. It was absolutely a giant loss that her picture hangs in my hallway. She married Christy and I. She did our marriage counseling. I mean, I can't begin. I mean, we've cooked meals together, and I didn't have that relationship with her that you did, Craig. Mine was probably more of like a social friend kind of, like a friend. She was a friend. But I didn't get to go to any of her Bible studies or anything like that. But
you
that
can't,
was
if you came to Wednesday night, then you know that Vicky was going to demand that you do the work because you're not going to just sit there in her class and not do nothing.
demanded the course that we took, the that I forget what they called it, the course that we had to take that was
Creating a life that
Creating
matters.
a Life That Matters. Oh my gosh. I never saw so many people cry and release and, connect. It was all her.
Well, my boss decided on Wednesday that we have to work on Saturday. So I'm going to be, my home office is, 5 feet this way in the next door. So I'm going to be kind of running back and forth and seeing what I can see. But it starts at 9, right? So
We should
yeah.
record it. That hasn't been discussed, but we should record it.
Yeah, I'm sure there are parts of it that will be that may be considered personal and might have to, we might, well, just that may be a negotiation at the beginning of the thing, but yeah, that would be nice to be recorded.
Well, maybe on like Q&A, we could pause recording or, something like that. But we'll,
You're
yeah.
gonna want to go back. You're gonna want to go back and review. You're not, you're gonna the weight of 8 hours in one day. It's a tremendous amount, so it would be nice. Yes, I need to go back to session 1 and hour 2 because I heard these things and I need to go back and revisit that. So if there's a way to make that happen, I think that would be really important.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah, breakout sessions are probably not, but yeah.
Well, intentional. And another thing I wanted to do was put the 4 sermons that happened during this month into a playlist so that they could be replayed because they all were very important and really great sermons, all of them.
So what did people think about the introduction to this week's mobilizer?
Oh, I'm afraid I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the one that Jackie Marshall sent? Or are you talking about the one that Candace sent?
Yeah, Jackie.
It would have been Jackie.
Oh, the Jackie one. I love behavior, right? Behavior is the only language that I speak, right? And the behavior that I've had is I haven't had an in-person apology from her. I haven't, seen a lot. It's all been delegated to the anti-racism team. And so, so far I haven't seen any, but I would like to see some this Saturday, right?
But
Like,
was the message nice?
Well, I read the message and I was like, well, these words don't sound like the person that did these things, So even, if they're, I mean, maybe they're in a moment of, I don't know, maybe they're in a moment of self-awareness that has just become extremely exposed over the last 6 months. And maybe they're just having this aha thing to where now they're just going to take the shields down a little bit but we'll see.
We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I hope that this weekend is not just focused on any one person or so I don't want to go in there expecting that that one or two or more people are gonna show that they've been changed or whatever, and I don't think that that is even the goal
No.
of changing, individuals like that. I think I would like to really see just a cultural shift into more communal decision making. Uh, I've for all these sessions since the issue of racism came up in our group, before it even came up in the church, we've been talking about some of these principles and maybe, but think and act collectively is one of the things that I really hope we're looking for, and as well as transparency. Just some of these things are all in the chat, but I would really like to see I would like to see structural change. I would like to see some connections made, and I would like to see that manifest in terms of not necessarily individual change, although, that would be nice. And I think that's important. But I think the structural change is what makes the difference. So,
Why not get a new anti-racist board position? Get a position on the board that brings this issue to every meeting and how we're doing um, in relationship to it.
That's an awesome idea.
We
But
we'll, we'll volunteer, but we don't want a position.
how
we,
do you
we don't
how
want.
do you qualify someone? Our election process is terrible.
Right, because it's an election. It's based on charisma. And as we know in this current presidency, right, that's not a metric that to base your ability to govern or do anything really other than be a fun. Because sometimes you laugh at a Donald Trump meme, right? Because take away all the fucked up, messed up stuff he's done, right? He has a sense of humor, absolutely. You can't say that he definitely does.
Be then a deacon of anti-racism that goes to every board meeting and makes sure that the eyes aren't taken off the prize because we're moving into extravagant generosity, in 1 week, and it's going to be all about the money.
I love that. That's something that
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah. Look at the structure of the board itself and how these decisions are made. I mean, we've talked in here a lot about just the worship itself. And technically, like that's something that's decided at the ET meeting, but it's not. It's not. There's just,
I have an annual planner. I've never seen it, but apparently it helps them plan services and stuff. But it's like a book they bought. It's not a MCC sanctioned or it doesn't have that baked into it. It's just the church, the time of the church year and what Bible verses align with it and what you could talk about for a sermon. And it gives the leadership who's creating the services like kind of a playbook.
I had access to the MCC planner when I was the drummer over there, and it's really just an outline. It's just an outline. It doesn't go into any kind of significant detail.
But in the past, with previous senior pastors, there was like a planning meeting because I
Oh,
was going to be invited to it, and then everything hinged on Troy moving his retirement up, and so I got kind of disinvited because that's when he was talking about it, and I was just brand new to getting back with
He
Resurrection.
was he was
And
actually really good at his implementation, but he was one of those people who showed lots of prejudice, in my opinion.
is
I,
that right?
mm, I was, I don't want to say a victim, but I was definitely on a very, I was hurt a number of times deeply, and I still stayed. I could have left at that time. And it was 2 years
Well,
later, I went through another trial. It's like, how does this happen? How do we get people in positions of power who don't have a common thread of how to just treat people? I mean, I didn't equate it to I'm a woman or whatever, but definitely got a couple board members and a senior pastor in a position of beating me up, for things I didn't understand. I'm pretty smart, nobody talked to me. So the whole process of um, making things right or making corrections or managing people, there's a huge void in leadership, uh, organizational management skills. I mean, they just don't exist. And
that's
when I
exactly
first started,
why. I when we took the survey after Troy left, that 800-page survey about what you want in a senior pastor, I mean, it was long. And I wrote in my comments at the very end, I said, it's time that we consider Leslie Jackson, the senior pastor of Resurrection, and maybe even think about combining the congregations so that we're truly community building. And I know that's complicated and it would take a lot of effort, but I just felt like it was another comment that was swept. I just think Resurrection needs a Black pastor. We had Vicky and then we had Denise for a while. And, but at the same time, we used to have, 3 or 4 pastors. Back in when I first got there was probably 5 because the church was so big. But yeah, you got to it's Houston. You need a Black pastor.
The when I first started talking to Troy about what I could possibly do with the church, and I was complimenting the accessibility, and there was a big accessibility campaign. And what he said to me is that, oh, Denise is the one who's all about the inclusivity. And she's the one who's really pushed these issues, and you should be thanking her for this. He really gave her credit. So I mean, I thought that was good that he acknowledged that. And I know that she and I believe Mona too were included in decisions about like they were part of that annual planning meeting for what the sermon series were going to be, and who was going to be included, and things like that. So I think that's good. But so just to get back to the thing about structures, yeah, I would like to know what the results of those surveys were. I would like to know if our pastoral search committee has access to and is looking at the results of all of those questions. And if the rest of us could.
I think it was so long that really only 10 people filled it out. I mean, I think you got more people registered for this outfit on Saturday than filled out that initial survey because it was long. It took like almost an hour to fill it out. And people don't have that kind of attention span. I don't, but I did it anyway.
We should have Jules or somebody like that from the Pastoral Search Committee on a call here. We should have her on God Talk and ask some of these questions. Why not? Why not invite the Pastoral Search Committee? To
Greg Puckett.
yeah, all of them to come on and all at once or one by one or whatever. Like, when I initially was part of the pastoral search, putting together the packet and stuff, or I didn't put it together, but I assembled it with the materials I was given. I didn't see anything in there about that. I mean, there was nothing about racism, or not racism, but, um, you know,
Equity and inclusion.
I don't know how to say it. Hmm?
Well, they have to make
And
it seem
inclusion.
like it's an equal opportunity, otherwise it's illegal. You've got to make it seem at least like it's an open opportunity.
You would
Otherwise,
think it would be a given in our church, but it's not. It's
You
not.
would
It
think
has to
what
be
would be a
called out.
given?
Just the fact that we're an inclusive church, you would think that inclusive meant inclusive, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's probably where we're going to start on Saturday, and I hope we can talk a lot about what it means to be inclusive, what liberation means, what anti-racism means, all of that. I hope we have some very deep discussions about that. And and I would I I hope that each of us have a very strong voice on Saturday, and I I I just invite us to think like what we can contribute, and I'm just, I know I keep saying this, but I want to think about the structures and how we can change the structures, and just these committees and the board. I think a lot of people think that the way that the board is structured is how all MCC churches are, and that is not the case. And so I'd really like to just really get very foundational with all of this. And I think um, there um, George, I know, was feeling bad, and I know George and wanted to be here tonight, but I think we kind of left at the end last week with some talk about the campaign and everything, and I had a short conversation with George, who just wanted to explain that, the board is responsible for the finances, and therefore the board decides about like the stewardship campaign, and they make those decisions. And I'm like, okay, so that has been true, but does it need to continue to be true? Is that, so I think we need to, and people are afraid of change. People are always afraid of change. And so we have to kind of tread a little bit lightly and keep the goal in mind about about what it means to be a community and what it means to be loving in community. And I mean, I don't think we want to go to the other extreme either, of having a congregational vote on every little decision that gets made in the church. But we want to have representation. We want to have like real representation in the leadership. We want to feel like our voices can be mingled with the rest of the congregation,
I
right?
think now that next gen is around, and you've got people that are willing to stand up and stick up. But in the past, I just remember at Resurrection there being just for these committees that being very difficult to find people who even wanted to be on the board of directors, or people that even wanted to be on the pastoral search committee, and people that even wanted to do stuff like that. But now we've got a group of younger people that are wanting to step up. So I'm like, yes, if there's not an opportunity there, let's create one. Because like at the congregational meeting at Uprising, it was supposed to be on Sunday, but might get moved to next week because of ICE. We're voting to change our bylaws to include another board of director position. And we're also going to vote on disaffiliation with UFMCC. And so a congregation can make changes, they can make choices, the community can do it, It just takes a little bit of desire and oomph.
Right. And and in a lot of ways, like we do, like the newer generation does definitely want to put our foot to the ground in terms of like navigating these this church and shepherding it, right? But like at the same time, we also in addition to that require an infrastructure that is actually more suited to us than it is to the hierarchies that our parents were raised in.
Right.
And so it's like, there does have to be like steps of towards deconstruction of biases, steps towards deconstruction of systems that are hierarchical and oppressive, right? Steps towards, liberation oriented, like systems. And, and so like, because you can't just say, hey, kids, we want you to take a position of power, right? while everyone's literally looking on the news at the current dictator and like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have to create a space that is, less of what we see in fascism and more of what we see in community and more of what we
Yes.
love and more of what we see like that suits the commune, the environment, the Montrose that we all fell in love with, but for some reason was never exposed to due to the ravages of the system.
So I would like to say one thing real quick before we change another idea. When we were talking about, nobody wants to step up and be a board member or, step up and do something where it requires that commitment. And in my opinion, if you are not part of the change that you want to see, you're enabling the bad stuff to keep happening. And nothing is ever going to get better unless we do the work. And that is a very foundational conversation that Jared and Leo and I had about 3 months ago, how hard it was going to be, right?
Oh, and yes, and then they are doing the work, but they are also saying we don't want to just take another hierarchical position. We
Right.
don't want a position in the board. We want to lead in different ways, and they have exemplified that. And I know this group appreciates it, and I want to just voice it in this meeting particularly. How just how you've shown that leadership without power hoarding and without relying on a title or a name of a position or anything like that to show that leadership. And that is magical. And that's what we need to bring more of.
So you don't need a title to do the work.
You don't need a title to do the work.
Because titles, they don't, like
They limit you.
they limit you.
It's-
They limit your scope of practice, actually.
It's like getting a diagnosis, right? It's almost like getting a diagnosis when they say, "Oh, you will no longer be able to walk," and then all of a sudden you're like, "Well, my life is over."
Right?
But how many athletes do we see that still compete, even though they're not able to walk, right? Because it's almost like a diagnosis. When they give it to you, it's like you limit yourself.
But
So-
if you push past it and you don't define yourself by it, it becomes liberatory. Oh, did you have something else there?
Yes, the question that you said, I don't know why we stopped doing the work, right? One of the biggest things is that, in my opinion, that the reason that we stopped doing the work is because people continue to leave the church, right? And in some way, people just thought that, oh, the problem is over because no one else is talking about it. So we must have fixed it. And there was no one that was sticking around and
The squeaky wheels left.
yeah, is staying with the church to hold, us accountable, to hold other people accountable. But also, I think that what I would like to see is more people in leadership building more community, because there are some people that are in leadership that I haven't seen in any of these groups that we have, right? And how else are we supposed to get to know each other?
Right. We have like five groups a week.
Yeah.
And you can't make it to
Like,
one.
I joke around because Gregor says, when do you have time for each other? because they'll attend, a group Monday through Friday. But I think that's I don't know. It's healthy for our relationship because it's also brought us closer too. So.
Yeah, because we talk about all the things,
Attend together. Yeah. That's
That's
beautiful.
an excellent point. And so maybe retreat is going to help flush some of this stuff out and make it surface to the top so that it can be, no, Lynn? What you got, Lynn? Come on now, don't shake your head and go, come on
Don't
now.
hold back. Don't hold back.
Something, Lynn. Take it away.
I'd love to see the list of people who are coming. I have mixed emotions about the retreat and its effectiveness, because I think that the topic alone breeds a certain amount of fear in some people, and they're afraid to talk about it, and they're apprehensive about, what should I say or what should I not say, and I'm interested to see how comfortable people are going to be being transparent about their feelings and about, who they think they are and where they think they contribute or don't contribute to the positivity or negativity of this topic.
If we plant ourselves, just little dots of us in those crowds, and we're like, we give them permission to say how they feel, and it's like that it's okay for you to feel that way, or it's okay for you to say that out loud, and nobody's going to come back at you because of it. And we learned that we can do that because we have this group on Thursday nights where we can freely, without fear. Fear is fear. Oh, freedom equals zero fear. Period and point blank. So when you're in a room where you feel like there's no fear, that's where you're free. And that's my mantra this year.
Well, I think there are going to be people who are just going to be curious about this. What is
It
this
might
all
light them
about?
up, though. It might light them up.
And then I think there are those who are sincerely interested in seeing some change and some diversity and some inclusion, and for whatever reasons those are. I completed the survey. It wasn't that long, Krager. It did take a
No, he's talking about the other survey, the first one.
oh, the other survey. Yeah. So I don't know. It's I just know that it's a difficult topic, and if you think that your culture, your background, how you grew up, people you've been around are not going to affect how you receive whatever it is they're giving on Saturday, then you're wrong. But I think and whether or not people are afraid or able to be transparent will depend on how good the presenters are.
Yeah.
How comfortable they make people feel.
Yeah, and I think that'll be good. And I think some of the small groups will make people feel more safe too. I
find it an anomaly, or not an anomaly, but a thing that both presenters are not brown, or I don't know. I don't know
What
both.
is?
One is
Nicole?
yes,
Is she someone of color?
yes, she's a
Okay,
person.
good. Okay, good. I didn't know. I was just like, is this room gonna be, this?
Yeah. Actually model the diversity. Yeah. The presenters do model.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Well,
and I
that's
think that's
good.
why they partnered together. And I think a lot of Evangeline's work has been with white people. And just in the history of MCC, that group, there used to be a group called White People Healing Racism. That's what they called it. And they changed the name, and now I don't think it exists in that form anymore. But I think one of her focuses has been, how can um, how can someone like me um, approach someone who seems to present a lot of problematic behavior and try to support them and kind of win them over as opposed to shame and blame, because shame
Yeah.
and blame doesn't help anyone. And so I think that's one of the places that I mean, once we look deep inside ourselves, which Krager, you've talked about many times, with it is then I don't know. We all have our spheres of influence.
Yeah.
And I think this retreat hopefully will help bridge a lot of things. But I think one of the things we need to be cautious about is I mean there's a place to call to speak truth to power. And then there's a place to build bridges. And this retreat to me feels like more of a place to build bridges. And and if people if people can't get on board, then they can't. But you gotta, I think this retreat is one place where we try to get people to see the light first. And yeah.
Go ahead. My
Our-
question, there's no in-person service on Sunday. Do we know, have they decided that there's going to be the retreat on Saturday in person?
Yes, the retreat's happening, no doubt.
Because there were some questions on my deacon thread about that, about
Yeah,
whether or not it
no,
was
if
still
you want to
happening.
reassure them that the retreat is happening, it's
But
not
I
supposed
assume
to.
that if somebody really has trouble getting there, then they could, even if they thought they were going to be there in person, they could still join on Zoom, correct?
Correct.
Well, the news is that we're clear for Saturday. That definitely it'll be here Sunday, but Saturday we should be fine.
Yep, until Saturday like night or something.
Yeah, I think that what happened once it went out, to the email went out saying there's no in-person service on Sunday, then immediately people began questioning what's happening on Saturday. So I saw that in my deacon thread. I was just curious.
So I don't know, maybe what I can offer is once you just say it, hello, my name is Craig and I'm a racist, that's where the freedom begins.
Yeah.
It's just like, hello, my name is Craig and I'm an alcoholic. Because until you can see that in yourself, you're going to have all those walls up where you're not going to want the feedback and you're not going to want to be receptive. But once, I'm like, come on, white people, just say the words and then let your healing begin.
Mhm.
Because once you say it, it's just like you feel free.
I know this is off topic, but Christy and I watched a Wanda Sykes comedy special that she did in 2021, and it was all about racism. It was hilarious, and it was also like truth hashtag truth bomb. The whole thing was
You
just
should
like,
post a link to
wow.
that.
Huh?
You should post a link to it.
Okay, I'll find it.
Okay.
It
All
was
right, y'all.
awesome.
We are nearing the end of our time. I'd kind of like to get just a little wrap up of how we're feeling as we're going in, or what one thing we want to bring Saturday. Um, uh, why don't we shall we just go around?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start like we did with the icebreakers. Jared and Leo.
Okay, so we're okay. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I just hope we can keep this momentum going and not let it die off in extravagant generosity. And and yeah, like that's the energy that I'm bringing. Is that this is a continuum. What about you, Chuck?
I'm feeling hopeful, and I guess that's it. Like I'm feeling hopeful. I hope that everybody comes in there with an open mind and being receptive to the information, and not like I forgot who said here that not putting up the walls and actually getting to listen to what's actually said.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm feeling hopeful as well. Marco, please don't make noise. Sorry. Um, uh, I'm feeling very hopeful. I'm afraid I'm getting my hopes too high because I really hope this is a turning point, that our congregation makes some major changes and that collective liberation is part of our future completely. But so anyway, any little change will be appreciated. So anyway, hopeful is still how I'm feeling. Okay, Krager.
Well, 6 months ago, we had never even heard of this event for tomorrow. And so what happens when people have a dream and people have a vision and they want to see change, somehow they come together and they facilitate an event like what we're going to see on Saturday. So I'm personally, every time I come to something, even like God Talk, I'm hoping to catch a few gems on Saturday that just hadn't hit my awareness yet. I know they're out there because I've been working on this for quite some time, especially back with Reverend Vicky. But I'm sure that there's things out there where I'm going to go, ooh, that's a nice little brick wall that can just fall down off my mental situation right now.
Nicely put. Suzette?
I want to go into it open-minded and not prejudge what I'm going to hear and like, oh, this is just another, a lot of people are going to feel like, oh gosh, this is just another resurrection meeting where we're going to talk all day and then nothing happens. I don't feel that way about this. And I'm committed to being part of the implementation, and I'm committed to being part of the vision.
Okay, Lynn.
I'm feeling curious
Nice.
because of what I think of as a unique position of a child of the segregated South and probably would be the oldest person in the room. I'm feeling curious, but hopeful that there will be conversations. That I want to be a listener, not a talker, really. Just to see what people are thinking and feeling and kind of digest it that way.
Beautiful. All right, Krager, would you
Sure. Holy Spirit, we're grateful for each and every soul that is here tonight on God Talk. It's a great conversation, as it always is. And so, yes, we're on the moment. We're coming up to the retreat on Saturday. And I think I'm going to step back for a moment and just pray that people get a good night's rest on Friday night and not be worried about weather and ice and everything, so that we can come into this event on Saturday refreshed, feeling rested. And that always is going to leave us feeling a little bit more open and willing to receive what you have to offer us, Spirit. So give us that first and foremost, and then just give us we just want to open our mouths and have you come through us and help us to find these gems that we're looking for. Whatever it is that we're hoping to gain out of this is what we're asking you for. Each of us is a little different, and we're just grateful for the opportunity. So we ask that you lead us along this path and get us there and get us through tomorrow, and let us gather truly as a community on Saturday. In Christ's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Love you guys.